Great. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. So making a switch from quality to really growth. As Sriram also talked about and Mr. Jain also pointed out, the India pharma market is entering a really period of strong value creation. The industry last enjoyed such tremendous value creation over 2009-15 in public markets. With pricing pressures in US and Europe, the Indian domestic market has re-emerged as a favorite for the stock market as well as for investors. Firms with a robust presence in the domestic market are outperforming those that lack one. And therefore, it's really a no-brainer that India-focused pharma companies can demand a premium. That's really the context of the discussion, that how can we focus on the drivers of growth in the India pharma market. So our panelists today bring diversity in terms of scale and growth, leadership from some of the really scale leading as well as the fastest growing pharma companies in the country, right from Sun, Alkem to the fastest growing JB Pharma and Corona Remedies. So we have a diversity in terms of the scale here, ranging from about 100, 120 odd crore per month to up to 1400 crores a month. The idea is to make sure that this group really benefits a lot from the discussion across this diverse group. So with that, let me introduce and welcome my panelists. I'll start with you, Kirti. Mr. Kirti Ganorkar has been the CEO of India business Sun Pharma. He has over 28 years of experience in the pharma industry. After heading the global business development team for several years at Sun, he took over the responsibility as CEO of India business in 2019. With extensive experience in business development, mergers and acquisition, project management, and litigation, he has built several innovative products for Sun and has been instrumental in the pharma company's growth in international markets, including US, Europe, Canada. Prior to joining Sun, he worked with German Remedies, another major player in healthcare. Please join me in welcoming Kirti one more time. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Vikas Gupta, CEO of Alkem Laboratories. Dr. Vikas is the CEO, a luminary in pharma industry and innovation. With over 2 decades of experience in leadership, he has paved the way for profitable and sustainable top line by driving teams, innovative sales and marketing plans, and creating powerhouse brands. He's an accomplished professional renowned for his transformation business successes and seamless transitions, driven by unwavering pursuit of perfection and a passion to inspire future generations. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Vikas once again. On my right, I have Nikhil Chopra, CEO of JB Chemicals and Pharma. With over 2 decades of experience, he is shaping JB's vision for 2026, as well as revolutionizing access to quality treatments. Nikhil's strategic approach includes spearheading inorganic acquisitions, transforming them into successful businesses, enabling the company to venture into progressive therapies such as heart failure, probiotics, cardiac care, ophthalmology. He has introduced the concept of beyond the pill marketing involving implementation of Phygital, which is digital and physical initiatives to enhance patient awareness, education, diagnosis, and adherence. Please join me in welcoming Nikhil Chopra to the panel. And last but not the least, Nirav Mehta, Director of Corona Remedies. He is the first generation entrepreneur and founder of Corona Remedies. He has led Corona to become the youngest company to be featured in the top 40 pharma companies in India. With over 2 decades of experience, Nirav's journey began with formal education in B.Pharm and MBA and subsequent stints at Bayer as sales and marketing professional. Nirav's steadfast commitment to excellence and his corporate philosophy of peace, prosperity, and progress define Corona Remedies' trajectory. Join me in welcoming Nirav once again. Great. So today's session, we will focus on the drivers of growth, as I mentioned, in the domestic pharma. We'll start off looking back a little bit what has been some of the historic or the recent past. And then we will transition to some of the future or forward-looking views from this esteemed panel. And towards the end, we will promise to keep at least 5-10 minutes for questions from the audience for our panel members. So I'll start with you, Vikas, in terms of what are one or two trends which you really has impacted your business considerably as you look over the last few years? Maybe use.
Very good afternoon to everyone. And at the outset, I must thank IDMA leadership, for giving this opportunity to be on this panel. Thank you so much, for inviting me. I must say, last 2-3 years have been quite topsy-turvy for Indian pharma. We saw what happened during COVID and how supply chains really got, disrupted. We are sort of getting back to normalcy now. But I think that was one big trend and one big learning, that we all had in the last 2-3 years. That how do you really keep your eyes very close to the market? How do you forecast demand, in a changing environment? So I think some of those methodologies really impacted us. Another very important trend that came in is that Bharat started growing at a pace, as I always say, between India and Bharat, these are two different worlds, that we are operating in. And Bharat started growing at a pace where maybe our distribution systems were not really contemporary to the pace at which, business started growing over there. A lot of population out of India has started, getting access and has started, becoming a part of the healthcare, agenda that the government is running. And I think as pharma industry, we really need to look at, these trends very closely and be, apt. And third trend, I would say, is the advent of data and digital. Today, gone are those days that, we could use the old practices of marketing. So I guess the decision making became very data led. The decision making, it required a lot of analytics and doing the right thing. The customer centricity, that was there, became very, very specific. So rather than treating a large set of your customers, I think we are moving to n is equal to 1. So those are some of the changing trends, that really I have seen, I have observed, and all of us have to keep a pace, to some of those trends.
Thanks, Vikas. So I think just, the Bharat growth, the distribution organization, the data-led advent of or use of digital, all of those are relevant points. Kirti, if I may come to you next, are there any additional observations as you look in terms of the trends which has impacted the business?
Sure, sir. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
And thank you, IDMA, and thank you, Mehta, for inviting me on the panel discussion. So I think one thing I want to tell this audience is the Indian pharma growth has just begun. Yeah. Because now I have been with Sun for last 25 years and we grown from a small company to what size we are today. But believe me, this is just beginning. We are just 25 billion in Indian pharma. And the way I am saying this, or based on a correlation, is there is a strong correlation between GDP and the Indian pharmaceutical growth. So if you look at Government of India's projections and also look at our growth in last 10 years in terms of GDP, we are going to grow by 6.5 to 7%. And if nothing unforeseen happens, then this growth can continue for next 8 to 10 years. So we can imagine that next 8 to 10 years, the Indian pharma industry from 25 billion can easily grow to the 50 billion. And this is the biggest growth opportunity we have for all the domestic companies. Now the question is whether, how do I use this growth and how do I become a part of this growth? This is what I will discuss. Second trend, what I saw is the Indian business was always based on acute therapy. So if you look at IQVIA data or IMS data 15, 20 years back, so predominantly acute was 55 to 60% of the market. Today, I think the trend had changed, and I think Sun Pharma, we have been successful in a chronic therapy. So chronic therapy areas are growing faster and chronic is about 55% of the market. Third trend is most of the medicine and drugs available in India are now affordable. They are affordable to most of the. So how do we make this available across tier 3, tier 4 and tier 4 town? That is the next trend we are observing, which is going to come. And the last one I would say is innovation. So with the existing drugs, generic drugs, we have been good. We are the pharmacy of the world. But if you want to move into the value chain, then we need to bring the innovative product to India. So these are some of the trends, I think past trend as well as future, which will change the dynamics in Indian pharma market in next 5 to 10 years.
Thanks for that. So you talked about growth, that this is just the beginning. And on my right, I have two gentlemen who are aptly demonstrating that, significantly outpacing the market. So I'll come to you, Nirav, as well as, first starting with you. What have been the factors pivotal in enabling that growth for your company? And then Nikhil, I'll come to you after that.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you, Mehul bhai, for bringing the concept of Vriddhi. That's how, the high talent pool of pharma industry has been together and try to learn from each other. Thank you so much. As far as, the question is that what we have done in Corona to leverage this growth and to make Corona onto the growth trajectory, I think so. Two things happens with us. One is the consistency in the thought process, strategy, promotions, product range and therapy range. And number two is the expansion at the right time, whether it is a geographical expansion or it's entering into the new therapy with the new team. I think so these two things helped us in growing and to make Corona onto this level.
Great, thanks, Nirav. Nikhil, you have also been on a growth path. Any points from your vantage point you would like to add to that, which Nirav mentioned beyond the consistency and the geographical expansion?
Thank you, Arunava. And first of all, I'm humbled to be a part of this program, and thank you, IDMA, for organizing this program, and also Flame University, Nemesh bhai. I think what you are giving back to the society is fabulous. What I have seen in last 2 days, it's been privileged to be a part of this program. Coming to growth, let me keep it very simple in terms of the way I look at things. You have to be patient and you have to be focused. That is what we are trying to do at JB and what I've been trying to do for last 2 decades in my work. Huge opportunity. I think what Kirti shared is it's a start of a journey. That is what we are up to. $25 billion market, growing at 8-10%. Huge burden of disease that we see in India. 100 million people suffer from hypertension, 100 million people suffer from lung disease, 100 million people suffer from mental illness. So overall, from a volume perspective, I think as pharmaceutical industry works towards reducing the burden of disease, not only generating the revenue, there's a huge scope in terms of what we can achieve in India. Obviously, we look at what we can do outside India also, but doubling or tripling the business from here is the start of the journey. That is what I look at the opportunity.
Great. So taking the growth theme forward and double clicking a little bit into the different therapy segments or the business segments. Kirti, you mentioned about chronic, and we will come to chronic, but before that, given acute has been such a significant part of the Indian business, and we have Dr. Vikas leading Alkem, one of the really leaders in that. What would be your advice to the IDMA members or the industry participants when they look at growth in acute?
So I think I'll take the theme forward, like Kirti mentioned. I think it's just the beginning of a journey. Size doesn't matter. If it's about how do you really provide more and more access. If you look at the initiatives that government is taking, including Ayushman Bharat, the whole Abha, digitization mission, that's on. Today, it's only a part of the population which has got access to the basic drugs, and large part of those drugs are actually in acute therapy. Whenever somebody crosses a particular threshold of the income, the first access, that he makes to is for the common disorders, that the person suffers from. And that would mean unlocking so much of, a potential, a large part of population which doesn't have access to these kind of drugs. Imagine what's going to happen to the growth of that segment as more and more people start coming into that regime of getting access to those drugs. What it would also mean is, have the drugs really reached the extreme tier 2, 3, 4 cities, as we say, and so far most of the top players have been focused largely on at the most tier 1 and tier 2 towns, but we see a lot of growth coming in from the farthest corners of the country as well. So I guess what one should focus on is how to get more and more patients into the scheme of healthcare. And second is, how do you really provide reach? How do you really provide access with affordability, to the new patient population, or so-called, the patient population which is getting into this access. And I think this is just the beginning of a journey. So that's more from Acute story. And I think the advent of digital literacy and the digital capabilities, to the deepest interiors of the country would play a big role in how you reach out, to those parts of the country. Not necessarily you may have feet on street everywhere, but I think that will play a big role in times to come.
So penetration and expansion enabled through digitalization.
Yeah.
What about trade generics from your, because your business is also quite deeply entrenched in that.
So I guess, again, it's all about providing access, and our experience has been that where the branded generic is unable to reach, trade generic reaches much faster. And trade generics, there is a misconception that trade generics have no brand building initiatives, and I have seen now across organizations that there is huge merit in, it's just because there is no organized data that comes out, that it's considered as a dark secret. In many ways there are not too many players, but now trade generics, I must tell you, for the last 5 years or so, or maybe longer, has always been growing much faster than the branded generics. So I see that growth would continue to propel and bring a large part of population into the access to healthcare. And I think that role would continue.
Great. Shifting gears a little, and that's to Kirti's point on the chronic segments. All the three gentlemen here do focus on that. That's an area we will deep dive a little bit, and maybe starting with you, Kirti. If you were to pick up one or two of the chronic is quite vast, right? There are multiple therapy areas we are talking about. One or two of the therapy areas, Kirti, where you would talk about what has been the drivers and what has been the latest trends as you look at Sun.
Sure. I think what I will focus on is non-communicable diseases. Say like South Asia, which is a home for 1/4 of the world population, the non-communicable diseases are on the verge of explosion. And India is a major part of it. I will just give some statistics for you to understand what I'm trying to say. Like, we have 100 million diabetes in India, and the pre-diabetic population is 130 million. So if you look at both this population, diabetes and pre-diabetes, this itself is a big market. And recently, ICMR has published a study, and this study was done almost on 110,000 patients. What about India's prevalence? So 11% prevalence is diabetes, 15% is pre-diabetic, and all the others diseases associated with diabetes. For example, diabetic retinopathy is there in 8 to 10% of the patient. The diabetes weight management is like 26% of the diabetes patients are obese. 30 to 40% of the diabetes patients are hypertensive. So if I keep on talking about this, I think there are 8 to 10% of the patient who develop the kidney complications. And the most important part of the diabetes as a market is, if you have 100 patients, 66 patients are not controlled on the current therapies. So uncontrolled diabetes is almost like 66%. So this itself is a big opportunities. So when I was also thinking, okay, when the all IDMA members are coming here, what message I should give it to them? It's like you are good in manufacturing of the product, but what we need to think through, how do I become expert in selling and marketing my product through a chronic therapy lens? And that will make you successful because chronic business takes time to develop. But once it is developed, then it's like a sticky business. Once you have good relationship with the doctors, you develop the franchises, then you keep on adding one product after the other, and then it becomes successful. And that's what we did in Sun all of these years. I can just give you example like 20 years back, some of the brands what we launched, the first year sale was 1 crore, 2 crore. Today we have brands, same brands, they are like 300 to 500 crore range. So what it means is we have to be patient, and we have to consistently keep on investing on the domestic business. And don't change your track. If you decided to be successful through chronic area, you will be successful if you try and understand this as a market. So diabetes is one area where I think we need to serve the patient better than what we are doing there. So there are large number of products which has become off patent, and they give you big opportunity for you to come into the market. And these combinations are well received by the diabetes and endocrinologists. So that's a one area. Another area is there are other therapy areas like antihypertensive, then dyslipidemia. All these are big areas. Like diabetes market is 15,000 crore. But all 5 chronic markets in India are more than 5,000 crore. And believe me, the India market is so big. There is an opportunity for everyone. It's not only the Sun or the big pharmas are growing. What I am saying, there is opportunity for each one of us to grow in this market. The market is big. And there are always opportunities. Like when we are looking at how do we expand our business. So there are opportunities for us to expand in tier 3, tier 4 market. There are opportunities for us to expand even in metro market where we are not present today. So some of the health statistic also, if you look at it, like we have more than 10 lakh doctors in India, but I'm amazed that we have 1 lakh new doctors passing out every year in India. So just to cover those kind of doctors and to reach out them, I need to keep on expanding on the business. And some of this growth, you need to think through how do I become a part of that growth and how do that growth comes to my business.
Thanks, very well said. So Kirti, you covered a fair bit on diabetes, and I know Nikhil, you referred to both mental health as well as some of the hypertension one. What's your view as your business when you look at on chronic, on some of the other chronic therapies beyond diabetes? Then Nirav, I'll come to you after that.
Yes, I think before the panel, what they were talking, I think Shriram was talking about India being the pharmacy capital of the world, and quality medicine at affordable price is what works in our environment. That is what we fundamentally believe. And we being a part of pharmaceutical sector, we consider ourselves as custodian of health for the Indian society. That is what we should be proud of. That is what we are trying to do. Coming to chronic part of the business, one thing that we keep in mind is patient, the consumer. Anything and everything that you do is for the patient. That is how you look at the ailment. Whether you talk of cardiometabolic, whether you talk of mental health, looking at the psychology of the patient in terms of if a patient suffering from chronic medications, and particularly what has happened, I think what Vikas was talking, post-COVID, as our understanding goes, patients have become now much more aware how to keep their immunity at place.
Yeah.
That is how things have been happening, and I think that is driving better adherence. We are looking at how do our packs, the medicines that the patient consumes, how do they talk to the patient? That is how things have to happen. How do you drive better adherence model? How do you closely work with the medical fraternity in disseminating the knowledge? Because as you disseminating the knowledge from the experts to the MD medicine, pediatrics, GPs, I think they will be able to give quality treatment to the patients. Those all things should be kept in mind, and that has worked for us. We are trying to do a bit in the world of cardiology, being in the world of hypertension, being in the world of heart failure. Hypertension, the burden of disease, what I spoke earlier. There are 100 million people who suffer from hypertension, and 1 in 4 patients is undiagnosed. That is the opportunity where we stand. Heart failure. 20 million people are the potential sufferers of heart failure in the country, and only 10 to 15% of them are getting the treatment, because treatment also recalls early diagnosis.
Yep.
We are working towards how do you facilitate the entire world of 2D, 3D, 4D echo, so that heart failure is not diagnosed accidentally. It is diagnosed proactively. That is what we are trying to do, equally in the world of dyslipidemia. So lots can be done in terms of when you look at from the patient angle. That is what we have been trying to do, and that is helping us.
Great. So, from the patient perspective, how do you diagnose early, prevent early?
To understand the psychology of the patient, how does he think? Because you may be selling medicine, doctor may be giving prescriptions, but how does the patient look? How do the relatives talk to the patient in terms of what is happening? Because that patient is taking 3, 4, 5 pills in a day. It becomes difficult for them. Yeah. That is what we are trying to deep dive, and it's a learning phase, learning mode. You keep on looking at things differently as you approach the subject from a contra thing.
Yeah. Nirav bhai, any
So
thoughts to add?
I am the youngest panelist and the youngest company among four. But let me share one interesting perspective with you. As far as India is concerned, in 2014, we have around 30,000 PG seats. And today, it has crossed in 10 years of time, it has crossed to 70,000 new PGs are coming every year in India. Now, we're talking about 70,000 new PGs coming into the India. Two things are very, very important. Number one is the coverage. Is pharmaceutical industry able to have a coverage of this new doctors? And number two is the exposure of the science. Because India is the only country where once you become a doctor, there is nothing like a refresher course. I think so pharmaceutical industry, and we all should feel proud on it, that we are the persons who are giving a regular knowledge updations program to the medical fertility, and that's how they are writing the newer products and benefiting to the patient. So it is also our humble, from Corona, we are trying to have a coverage and exposure on the science with the availability of the product. Because the third most important point is availability of the product. You launch the product, you have a great coverage, but if product is not available, I think so it's been useless. So I've been very, very bullish on these numbers from 2014 to 2024. Of course, Modi Sahab knows it and he will use it in 3.0 before making this government, about 30,000 to 70,000. 50,000 MBBS to 1 lakh MBBS every year. I think this has been very, very interesting data, and on this coverage part, if you all will work, we will have a bright future as far as patient satisfaction is concerned.
One point I would like to make, though we are not a dominant player in the world of generics, but I think a bit which government is trying to do in the world of Ayushman Bharat, Jan Aushadhi,
Yeah.
that is catering to around 80 crore people in the country, be it the world of Bengals or UPs and Bihars. I think that model suits our country. That is what I would like to put in place. And I think big companies, we are a small fish in a big pond. So there are big dominant players in the world of generics. Generics for us can be one of the strategy. But quality medicines, education of the pharmacist, if that is done, because many of these patients who probably are reaching the chemist who are being given the generic medicines are counseled by the pharmacist. They don't reach the doctors.
Yeah.
They can't afford doctor consultation also. That is the world in which we are living. So that model, quality medicines, affordable price, generics, all those things probably suits us as an Indian society. Yeah.
The last point which I would like to add.
Yes.
As Kirti has spoken about 100 million patients in diabetic and 130 patients in pre-diabetic, there is a huge market been waiting for preventive therapy. If every company and the new company will start thinking on preventive therapies, I think a huge market is in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's try to kind of now look a little bit into the future. But before that, Mehul or Vikrant, I just want to do a time check. How much can we think of? I know we are stopping people from lunch, so want to make the most use of this. 20 minutes max. Okay, great. So as we, let's take a step into start looking into the future. Now, one of the themes we have been hearing a lot, all of you would have been exposed to ChatGPT, omni-channel marketing, generative AI. So Vikas and Kirti, I'll come to you in terms of as you think of generative AI, we know that that is being starting to being adopted in some of the MNCs in some of the West. How do you view it as use in the India pharma domestic context across the value chain? Maybe Vikas start with you and then
Sure.
Kirti will
Sure.
take your
Thanks.
thoughts.
Thanks. First, a disclaimer: it's as new to us as it is to anyone else in the world. So I think it's a new learning
For all of us.
for all of us, right? But I can give you my view personally. The way I look at it, and in Indian pharma, and we are getting to run now a few pilots, which will tell us where it would work, where it won't. But I guess it'll play a lot of role in R&D, where a lot of dossier filing work, a lot of human work, which can be done using the Gen AI. I guess it clearly has a use case, right? So it'll make things faster. It'll make things much better and more compliant. So clearly one area where I see a lot of use case. In plants, we are talking of Industry 4.0. We are talking of a lot of capacity calculation, utilization, etc. I guess there is merit in experimenting. There is merit in running pilots, to see how your supply chain, can use Gen AI to make it more efficient. In terms of marketing, I think what Gen AI can play a role, hyper-local messaging.
Yeah.
I think all marketeers across industries are moving to that hyper-local messaging point of view. What it can do is it can give you hyper-efficient models of marketing. I think these are two themes, that I clearly see where there is merit in running some pilots and using Gen AI. Couple it with the omni-channel piece, get omni-channel and Gen AI to work together.
Yep.
Who knows, you have a winning model.
Great.
But I think these are pilots which need to be run. Only time will tell, whether Gen AI will be better than human eye, so to say. As I always say, Gen AI can do a lot of what humans have done so far, but only humans will do what humans have not done so far. So that's my personal take. But let's see. Time will tell. How things will evolve on this. Yeah.
Great. So you spoke about, I think, applications in R&D, regulatory, Industry 4.0, which is the shop floor, and yesterday we had sessions on that. And third, even on the marketing side, the N of one doctor segmentation, N of one personalization. Kirti, from your point of view, any thoughts to add from your vantage point?
Yeah, sure. So maybe said it's new to everyone, and we are all in a pilot stage. But when I look at the application of Gen AI, at least from a sales marketing perspective, I could see 10 user cases where it can be used or it can be piloted. Maybe I can give a few examples of that. Is like we have large field force like front-end managers where their ability to analyze data is limited. So Gen AI can help them and analyze the data in better way. Another pilot we are doing is we are informing medical reps and the field managers about their performance through an AI. We are reminding them where they are doing better, where there are areas they can do much better using an AI. And this is just on a pilot scale, which we did in a couple of states. And I think maybe another 6 months or 1 year down the line, we will know whether it is helping or not. This is basically nudging the sales force, which is what many people are doing. So we have started in piloting. Third, we talked about in our industry, SCP is the most important stakeholders. So what I can do for SCP is, of course, one we talked is like, I can prepare a promotional material or a visual aid, which is specific for the doctors. Depending on the doctor's profile, depending on the doctor's interest, depending on the doctor's habit to prescribe the products, depending on how the doctors and where he's located. So based on all the inputs, what we can collect publicly, we can prepare something. Then another application, what I see is when our people goes to doctors, there are medical queries on new product, there are medical queries on disease profile and everything. I think AI will help you. If you put your queries, you will get the response. This response, either the field manager can share with the doctor, but ultimately even doctors will start using AI on their own to see and solve all of their medical queries. So another area is the supply chain, where non-availability of product. Today, we come to know through a lot of sources. But if I have a database and for last 10 years, and I know what are the seasonalities where my product was available, non-available. So Gen AI data can help you understand and predict what we can do better. So when I went to Japan once, I see that they forecast for next 60 months. And we are not able to forecast for next 3 months. And that
60
60
days.
months, say 12 month is always given. You cannot change it. You can change it only 13 months onward. So these are the technologies what people use and they predict what can happen. And it's not that you don't change. If there are any parameters or any input as a change in the forecast, you can always change your forecast accordingly so that you are able to supply. Another area is which I want to say is now the focus from SCP is moving to patients. Patient awareness, patient education, patient camps. Suppose we have 130 pre-diabetic, what do I do with them? So I need to have an AI tool where I can diagnose them. I need to have a methodologies which are non-invasive to diagnose the diabetes. And that's the direction we will go in near future. So all of these data, and we also conduct large number of camps to see that the patients are diagnosed. And we know whether they are diabetes, pre-diabetes, and what kind of treatment they need. So if you keep on listing, I think the AI, in my personal opinion, will definitely help us to improve our productivity.
Yeah.
These are very early user cases. I have 10, 12 user cases only in sales and marketing. Couple of them we are piloting. Maybe 1 or 2 years down the line when we have similar sessions, we will be able to share some of the outcomes with you.
Great. Thanks, Kirti. So you spoke a fair bit on productivity, right, across different dimensions, whether it's supply chain, whether it's the productivity of the reps in terms of query resolutions. I'll come to you, Nirav bhai, in terms of, that's one area you have been looking at also, right, in terms of productivity. So beyond generative AI, how are you thinking while managing the growth or while driving the growth for your, let's say, quote unquote, young company on the productivity dimensions of your people?
So as far as productivity is concerned, it's the industry's big question nowadays. Because volume growth is hardly 2% or 3%. The new introduction gives you around 4 to 5%, and then the MRP growth is around 4%. Resulted, you can grow by 10%. And being a young company, being a small market size, you may grow by double than the market. So that's been possible. But new introduction plays an extremely important role play. New introduction by, completing the whole of the therapy. And I think so, we at Corona, we are not hesitating by launching some mature products also to complete the whole of the therapy. So you have to complete the therapy, geographical expansion, and then the coverage part. That is also one part of it. But new introduction plays an extremely important role, and we are utilizing that thing in keeping in the mind while looking at the product.
Understood. Great. Coming to you, Nikhil. You have had a good, strong kind of legacy or strong backing of private equity, right? And
First, I would like to have a comment on what questions was. Let me also give my comment on this
Sure,
AI
sure.
and people part. I have a limited view, but I have a view. Still, I think 80% of my view will go towards the human angle. AI is there. It is not that we should discard. I think mobile today is playing a pivotal role in terms of what we are trying to do. But today, if you look at overall, when you are working through people,
yeah,
I think Sun, you will have 15,000 people, Alkem will have 10,000 people, we have 2,000-3,000 people. I think we have to motivate them. We have to make them successful. The productivity that they can bring, the relationship that they have with the healthcare professional, what Nirav was speaking about, dissemination of knowledge, how we can closely work with the medical fraternity. I think huge opportunity. AI will play a role, but I think 70-80% still the role is of that human angle. The people which are working for us, and they are playing the role in terms of what today we enjoy, we succeed. and the success that we have got, I think that is critical, and that is as a partner, and it is not only for pharmaceutical sector, it is across sectors. I think that is how our society is built up, and Western world things are progressing. It will come to India, but it will take its own time. But I think still the human angle should be given equal importance, and that should not be forgotten. That is my view.
Well said. We should round of applause for that. The human angle and not taken over by machines. So summarizing all of this as we look forward, one question across all of you, and we'll start with you, Vikas. Is one thing. What is the one thing as you look forward in the domestic market from a growth perspective?
One is difficult.
Yeah, that's why I said one thing, which will you have to force prioritize.
So if force prioritize, then obviously what Nikhil said. It's talent. It's humans. If you're focusing on your talent, I think this talent has brought this industry so far. This talent will take the industry forward. So nothing can compete with that one priority. But if I have to talk of business processes and where is it that it's going to make a huge difference, like I mentioned, I guess businesses of tomorrow would look very different from businesses of today. And when I say that, all these trends put together, is today pharmaceutical is an illness industry. Will it become a wellness industry? Okay. Today we work with X framework of regulatory environment, which is evolving with every passing day, and I think domestic will be as qualitative as any other regulated market in the world. And Industry 4.0, which would mean getting in a lot of manufacturing practices which are more modern. So I think when you will look at plants 5 years from now, they would look very different from what they are today. When you would look at the distribution patterns, they would look very different from today. But yes, in Indian pharma market, there is a lot of disruption happening in the distribution channel. A lot of organized stores, medical stores, have come in. E-pharmacy, I don't know which way the wind is blowing. Only time will tell. We'll see. There are phases of ups and downs. So I think companies will have to be more and more contemporary, with keeping these changing trends in mind. I think that's what my take would be.
Kirti, what's your one thing which you look forward in future?
Yeah, that's because said there is no one, but if I had to pick up one, then I will pick up innovation. I think innovation is, of course, we need talent even for innovating things. I totally agree with that.
Humans would innovate.
Human will innovate. See, I think all of us should remember that India pharmaceutical industry can grow from here to next stage only on innovation. We have done a wonderful job in generics. Nobody can compete us, even China cannot compete us on generics. But just to give you a perspective so that you understand what I'm trying to say is today we are 25 billion and China today is 125 billion. See, we become 50 billion, China is likely to become 200 billion. So these are not the big numbers because we are now focusing only on a generic part and a branded generic and trade generic. But tomorrow, if I want to become big and tomorrow's India has to lead as a pharmaceutical industry on the world, then we have to focus only on innovation.
Yeah.
And that will bring a big change for us. So as all of us, we are talking of Amrut Kal, I can just visualize maybe by 2050, India being called as an innovation hub in pharmaceutical industry. Then I think we have achieved what we want to achieve in our lifetime. That's
Great talent, innovation. Nikhil, what's your one pick?
What I spoke earlier, the starting comment, be patient enough and be focused. That is what will continue to drive and help driving any business that you are into. And one thing which I would like to bring to attention is also drive the right culture in the organization. The culture of we, not the culture of I. I think as a team when you work, you may fail, you may succeed, but if you fail, don't hesitate in taking decisions. I think that also works very well when you are at the top, because it is not easy that every time you will be right. You will fail, you will learn, you will succeed later on. So be patient, be focused. I think that will help any organization to succeed. That is what is a bit of one topic, one point that you were asking. Yeah.
Yes. And that connects back to your human touch point, right? Like even in the even in generative AI.
So when you are
The youngest
asking,
among the panelists,
yeah,
but
yeah.
not
So
me.
yeah. So when you're asking about one thing,
Yes.
I was thinking that a place like Flame, when you sit with a vision and a strategy team for 2 days, in 3 days, you can write a paper for next 3 to 5 years. But the most important thing, according to one word for me, is ruthless execution. We may plan many things, but the most important thing is how good you and your team can execute that idea and make it, real one. So talent, innovation, culture, and the execution. These are the
Excellent.
four words.
That sums up a good strategy.